Over the course of 3 seasons of Hannibal, we've been treated to 39 exquisite and wonderfully crafted episodes. And with Hannibal ending, at least for now, I take a look back at my top 10 episodes throughout the whole series, with a few honourable mentions at the end.
You have to convince yourself the lion is not in the room. When it is, I assure you, you will know.
Kicking off the list, we're back where it all began. The very first episode of Hannibal did what many thought was simply not possible. A reimagination of the iconic villain Dr. Hannibal Lecter was brought to life in TV form. You don't even see Hannibal until halfway through the premiere episode, but once you do, he makes one hell of an impression. And with the first half of the episode focused on establishing the unique mindset of FBI criminal profiler Will Graham, the second begins the journey of Hannibal and Will's relationship.
God forbid we become friendly.
I don't find you that interesting.
You will.
I want you to kill Hannibal Lecter.
Mukosuki continued from the thrilling conclusion of the previous episode. With Beverly obviously losing her encounter with Hannibal, you would have guessed she ended up like all the rest. But what transpired was one of the most unique killings in the entire show. Frozen, segmented, placed between glass and displayed where Jack would find her. Beverly at the time was of course investigating Hannibal on Will's word, and once Will caught wind of the terrible fate that befell his friend, he decided to take matters into his own hands. He found himself a new friend in the form of one of the Baltimore guards, and sent him to murder Hannibal Lecter.
Maybe your murders will become my murders. I'll be the Chesapeake Ripper now.
Only if you eat me.
I'm not so sure I know who you are anymore.
Let's face it, Hannibal won in the first season. Will was finally beginning to put the pieces of the puzzle together, but he was not quick enough. Hannibal had overwhelming evidence pointing firmly in Will's direction. And in a final confrontation right back in Garrett Jacob Hobbs's kitchen, Will figured it all out. Hannibal was the Chesapeake Ripper and responsible for these murders all along. But before Will could pull the trigger, Jack stepped in to seal Will's fate. And in a fantastic twist to end the first season, Will would find himself behind bars of the Baltimore State Hospital for the criminally insane.
Hello, Dr. Lecter.
I was going to kill you. I didn't poison you, Tobias. I wouldn't do that to the food.
Episode 8 was my favourite episode from the first season. Tobias Budge versus Hannibal Lecter was the first time that we really got to see the physical side of Hannibal, as both serial killers fought to the death. Physicality is not something that you would normally associate with the character, but his brutal neck snap of his patient Franklin before his calculated brawl with Tobias showed us that this version of Hannibal is definitely not one to be messed with. Coming in at number 6 is Contorno. To be honest, I really wanted to put this one higher up in my list, but I just couldn't shift any of the others that I have above it. Regardless, this episode gave me one of my most anticipated Hannibal scenes. The bowels out and hanging of Inspector Patsy, followed by the brutal beatdown of Hannibal by Jack, gave us one of the very best endings of any Hannibal episode, one that will stick, at least in my mind, for a very long time.
Hello, Frederick. Oh my God.
Beginning the countdown of the top 5 is Yakimono, a personal favourite of mine, starring the one and only Frederick Chilton. This episode brought light to the trend of Chilton being the scapegoat of the whole show. After walking in on Abel Gideon's mutilated corpse, Chilton was knocked out and set up by Hannibal to be the Chesapeake Ripper. And when Jack had him locked up for questioning, it seems that Hannibal convinced more than just the FBI that Chilton was indeed the Ripper, as Miriam last shot him through the face.
Show me how Pablo would check the depth of a pig's fat. Show me on you.
Any list isn't complete without the magnificent addition of Tome 1. The penultimate episode of Season 2 gave us a thrilling encounter between Will, Hannibal and Mason Verger. With Mason ultimately getting captured, drugged and influenced by Hannibal, he cut off his own face and fed it to Will's dogs, one of the most memorable moments in the entire show.
What are you feeding my dogs?
Just me. Please.
I promise. And I always keep my promises, Alana.
Now for the top 3. Wrapping up the Mason Verger story was the Season 3 mid-season finale. What more could you ask from an episode? Apart from Will and Hannibal being captured by Mason, we had Cordell attempting to remove Will's face, Hannibal reminding Alana of the promise that he made her, a disturbing pig baby scene, and much, much more. Hannibal's breakout thanks to Margot and Alana allowed Will to be saved. Then Margot finally had her chance to erase Mason once and for all. It was thrilling from start to finish and ended with the wonderful moment as Hannibal surrendered himself so that Will could always find him. A magnificent episode fully worthy of being in the top 3.
I want you to know exactly where I am. Where you can always find me.
Possibly the final ever episode of Hannibal, and my number 2 pick is The Wrath of the Lamb. After escaping police custody and travelling to Hannibal's cliffside home, all Hannibal and Will could do was wait. Eventually they knew that the dragon was going to strike. And what an entrance he made. After shooting Hannibal in the back and stabbing Will in the face, both joined forces together to finally slay the Great Red Dragon. The ending sequence is easily one of the best in the whole show, and ended as Will pulled Hannibal over the cliffside along with him. The after credits scene with Bedelia of course hints at both of our main characters' survival, and who knows, maybe one day, the story will continue.
Rushing through my veins.
Hannibal! Where's Jack?
In the pantry.
And thus we arrive at number 1. Widely regarded as Hannibal's finest hour is the Season 2 finale, Mizumono. Both the Season 2 and 3 finales were masterpieces in their own way. After watching The Wrath of the Lamb, that at the time was my favourite, but looking back I would have to give the edge to Mizumono. We knew that a fight was coming. We saw only a glimpse of it in the Season 2 premiere, but no one could have predicted what truly came to pass. Hannibal leaving Will, Jack, Alana and Abigail in pools of their own blood has to go down as one of the best TV finales in the history of television. And for me, it's Hannibal's ultimate episode.
Fate and circumstance have returned us to this moment. When the teacup shatters.
So there we are, that was my pick for Hannibal's top 10 episodes. A few others though definitely deserve a mention that didn't make it into the list. So here are some of my honourable mentions that didn't make it into my top 10. I really enjoyed this particular episode, with Chilton recording every whisper that goes on inside the Baltimore hospital. He now is beginning to believe Will that Hannibal is the real killer. He fits the profile, his profession gives him power over man, and as it happens, he's throwing a dinner party. This episode was also the last time we saw Abel Gideon alive, as Hannibal aimed to quash any further words between him and Will. And let's not forget how it ended, as we learnt the shocking truth that all of this time, Miriam Lass was alive.
What do you smell on me?
Opportunity.
Buffet Froid was definitely one of the more creepy Hannibal episodes. Georgia Manchin was the killer this time around, and as Will's condition finally got analysed, we found out that he had advanced encephalitis, a diagnosis which then gets covered up in secret by Hannibal and Dr. Sutcliffe. Hannibal, of course, then murders Dr. Sutcliffe, so he is the only one that knows the truth. But honestly, what did you expect? Hannibal is the one who is always in control.
He's had a mild seizure.
That doesn't seem to bother you.
I said it was mild.
Season 1, Episode 11 was Abel Gideon's escape. Gideon captured Frederick Chilton and began to open him up, thus beginning the season after season trend of Chilton going through the horrific ordeals. Will suffered a seizure in front of the watching Hannibal and Gideon, as Hannibal then questioned Gideon's claim of him being the Chesapeake Ripper, something of which Hannibal knew to be false.
Are you the Ripper?
A terrible thing. To have your identity taken from you.
Fear is not what you owe me. You owe me all.
The penultimate episode of Season 3 once again focused on the tortures of Frederick Chilton. This time it was Dollarhide's turn to do the deed. After angering the dragon via Freddie Lowndes' Tattle Crime article, Dollarhide snatched Chilton, bit off his lips and burnt him to the edge of death. The lip scene was easily one of the most intense and gruesome scenes that I have ever witnessed, and continued the trend of Chilton getting tortured year upon year. So there we are, the list is complete. Let me know your favourite Hannibal episodes down in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, comment and subscribe. And I'll see you on the next one.
Put your head back. Close your eyes. Wade into the quiet of the stream.